Oh, hello there. Yes, well, Friday. I'm still in my front room. Yeah, still it's Friday. That's good, I suppose. My week's basically come to an end. I have so little to show for it. Anyway, I thought today we'd look at a tragic case of what I can only presume is early onset dementia. Yes, Lawrence Fox, Orance, as we might call him. You may remember some of those films he was in with this sort of David Lean sort of swirling historical epics and stuff. Brilliant, Orance. What a great film that was. Yes, loads of brown people in it, and of course he was quite happy working with them. So I don't really know what's going on, because he does seem to sort of be engaging in lots of those things which I would regard as early warning signs, fairly repetitive stuff, and getting into silly arguments with people, as well as not probably understanding exactly where he is or what's going on around him. He's been sort of spent the last 2 days with a bit of a Twitter spat over somebody in and around his girlfriend and racism. I mean, he's not racist, obviously. He used to work with Omar Sharif. Anyway, 90% of the racism I see in this country is against white people, right? 99% of the privilege I see in the world is possessed by black people. Yeah, that's a good binary thing, isn't it? Bored of it. Well, yes, okay. Martin Luther King explained how to be progressive. Okay. Let's hope Shola Moswan is not the pinnacle of black British thinking. Yes, not really quite sure about the MLK thing there, because he doesn't really unpack that. But you may recall that Lozza had to leave the capital because he was feeling all threatened by people there. That kind of fear of multiple strangers, which is one of those early warning signs. It had nothing to do, obviously, with people not voting for him and him, basically being a Lozza deposit in terms of the mayoral elections. But again, he does seem to be quite confused as to which exact brown person it is that he's having a go at. But we'll come on to that. Yeah. Anyway, if he's 90% of the racism he sees, then I'm just wondering whereabouts he is in the countryside, because most of us wouldn't presume that the country would be a hotbed of racism against white people. But perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps there are the outer limits of St Albans, or maybe something nicely nestled in Hampshire, where white people are afraid for their lives. But I don't actually think that that's true, and I can only believe that this is basically a figment of someone's imagination. I don't know, just that, various problems, cognitive decline, if nothing else. Yes, and, he's managed to get into other sort of arguments recently, like there was this one with Homer Youssef, who I don't know if Lawrence thinks that he's somehow the mayor of London or someone else. I don't really know. Stop building military bases under hospital when then crying when the hospitals get destroyed. Yeah, this is the former First Minister of Scotland. So I think it's confusing stuff he sees on the news with this bloke who I don't know, who isn't a mayor. I don't know. It's confusing, but let's dive on. No thoughts and prayers where the Sinwar devils scattered remains today. Okay, you want to play Middle Eastern politics? Leave, I'll pay for your flight, which is sort of quite generous. But I think, just because Humza is mentioning, I believe, Gaza, I don't see why he would particularly want to leave. I don't know. Again, it's very confused, isn't it? It's confused, yes. Or indeed this one. Multiculturalism is the greatest crime ever inflicted on the British people. Which is quite hyperbolic, really. I think there are greater crimes. Pot noodles, potentially. Anything, any product by Findus. Probably, historically, spa shops as well. Just very nasty. You know what I mean? It's kind of up there. Anyway, teach a person it's a victim, it will behave like a victim. Now, some people have sort of suggested that this is a kind of way of, in a racist way, of dehumanising people. But I think what it is that Lawrence has reached that point whereby he just doesn't see people as people. They become things, or it. And, in a sort of fevered imagination, it's quite easy to do that. Britain needs to toughen up and stop pandering to this sort of behaviour. Assimilate or leave, yes. And this is a group of teenagers who are doing those kind of teenagery things and being a bit rude. Now, that old person with their stick kind of shouting at the young people. Yeah. I don't know, perhaps it's particularly bad where he is. Perhaps it's an example of the very localised racism that he gets into. But there have been other warning signs, haven't there? I mean, you may recall when he was going on one of those marches with his mates, who definitely aren't racist, because he's definitely not racist, that he had a bit of an issue in a bus lane. I would have thought personally that, you know, if you get into a bit of a kerfuffle in a car that hasn't got an MOT in a bus lane, that you wouldn't necessarily want to spend 30 minutes shouting. I mean, his argument was that he definitely hadn't just had a few ales, officer, so it couldn't possibly be that. And again, I think we therefore have to think about cognitive decline. Yeah, it can only be that, can't it? It can't be any other reason. It couldn't possibly be that he's just a really obnoxious grifter who's been allowed to do this stuff because it basically pays, because he gets all of those ticks, and that effectively means that he'll never have to work in a David Lean classic ever again. I don't know. It's all very, very, very strange and just a bit sad. I think, you know, whenever I see people like this, I just think, well, there but for the grace of God go I. Or Allah, or, well, something, eh? Anyway, do take care. Probably eat less bacon, maybe have less fry-ups. That might work, and certainly, whatever you do, don't buy products. No Findus from Spa. Just, dear God, no. That has to be the greatest crime ever committed to the British people, or maybe it was enclosure. It's hard to say. Perhaps the Norman invasion. That was horrible. Anyway, yes, enjoy. Yeah, enjoy. Yeah, maybe watch a sweeping epic for the weekend. You know, starring Lozza, not as Batman, probably. Do enjoy.